thank you, Andrew and Richard, for making this all happen, and I'm very happy that I'm here, and this is the room, and that we have an East Africa Day. It is 40 years ago that I went to Tanzania for the first time. It's, well, something like 35 years ago that I started working on the Iraku. The decision to do that was Batibo, Professor Batibo from Tanzania. He came to Leiden and he actually invited us to say, well, we have all these languages in Tanzania. There is a restrictive language policy, I know, but for scientific research, we welcome you. Please come. So I felt inspired. And I was looking for, what language to do. And among the Southern Cushitic ones, it was at that point very clear to me that that would be Iraq, because that is the biggest one. It was completely before this whole idea that we should save all these endangered languages. So it was a different idea what kind of choices you should make. And so I made it with the idea that that would be the most viable language, that maybe my research would be valuable for all sorts of other things. Maybe jumping ahead in what I planned, but I view that very differently now. I mean, in a way, Iraku and the number of speakers has been growing tremendously in those years that I was involved with them. Actually, maybe even faster than the rate in which the population grows, because mostly Datoga, Barbike people who decide to become farmers. Some of them also are bilingual already in Iraku, but sort of shift to Iraku, and certainly when they marry to Iraku person, man or woman. So you would say, and I've been saying that Iraku is very vibrant, and at the same time I also have the impression that all the languages in Tanzania are at risk. I was shocked when I gave a talk in Dar es Salaam, maybe more than 5 years ago, something like that. Iraku speaking students came up to me and we chatted, and for the fun I would shift to Iraku, and it was painful moments because they grew up in Dar es Salaam and they didn't feel comfortable anymore in Iraku, and I had never thought of that would be possible, but it is possible. And you see it happening. We have been talking to people in secondary schools where all the kids are proficient and they speak Iraku all the time. But some of the teachers, they really see that as something that should change, and that is not the way forward. So I think that the influence of Swahili, and more so in Tanzania in the last decade, English is incredible, cannot be underestimated. That change in the whole attitude has affected the way I do research in a way that I find very, very exciting. I mean, I'm very glad that we had Giel and Tim here presenting. When I did my first years of research, it was very lonely kind of thing. I did it on my own. I was there in the village. It was nice. It was to get to know and to get involved into the whole community. But it was writing the grammar was my thing, and I did it in my little room and with just a few speakers. And that is how I did my research, and I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed this more. Because, I mean, before Giel and Tim, we had Sandra and Amy that I took as students, and before that there were Anna and Varun, and before that Twan. So I have been going back to the area where I did my initial research with the students, and they stay interested in it, and they remind me of what I was planning to do, and that is a beautiful experience. And the first one, Twan, he worked first with the people that I used to work with, but he found somebody else. And Basilisa, the one that Giel has been working with, she was very excited, and afterwards to work with me. It was a different kind of relationship because she had been trained to read and write Iraku by the whole church mission. She's Catholic. The whole mission that is involved in Iraku research is Lutheran in Bulu district. But she has been trained to give courses, alphabetization courses in Iraq. So she's highly interested, she's highly trained. I trust her ear now because she knows it better than I do when a vowel is long and those kind of things. That is still my major challenge actually, vowel length. Despite the fact that we have it in Dutch, but it is different. So that made now that I'm now receiving new texts. The last ones that I haven't received yet, but they're ready to come, are conversations that I've never had. So I will see how natural they are. But she has her own video camera. She has a laptop. She has also audio recording material. So more and more, she's also deciding what to record, and that is a new whole stream of data coming in that are not completely dictated by me. And I don't know where that will go, but I hope it will go further and further. I think that could be very interesting in the future to get more and more of inspiration from what they think is special and is interesting. At the moment, it's just Basilisa in my case that does that. But it also means that I have to make sure that we get that's the text, Iraku Text and Society project, that we get a large corpus and that we can use it. So that also would change my whole idea of the whole way I would do research. And maybe in the future will be also possible to do different kinds of text. So one of the former students, Amy, she is working with Google to try to train. Google has accepted that they will happen to train automatic transcription on Iraq. And it's not working yet, but if that is really something that is going to come true, then you can think of different amount of text that you'll collect and different kind of text. So I had been collecting recordings, video recording of children playing, and that is just a few ones that a little project that I did with Judy Messman, a professor of pedagogy here in Leiden. But you can imagine those kind of things developing, and that it is possible to have regularly collected material of how children learn Iraq, how children learn how to speak, how to go about, and how to play with their kids. With all of that, there's also that change in society that I just already mentioned, that people are more and more inclined to Swahili and to English. And also something that that I sometimes think about is the divide that we have, the digital divide is now between Permul and Arusha, between the village and the city. And it's one of the major challenges that we have in education in Africa, or certainly in Tanzania, is how can we can, but it is a challenge to get the kids, to give them the feeling that they can be connected to the world where they live, rather than they have to go to Arusha to be part of the real world. So this was the intro, was it? Did I do everything? No, I wanted to show, well, maybe I have no time to show. At the end I might show a little video clip of Quadino, because I mean last night we were already meeting, and Sander Steeman, who joined us on the last trip with Roland to East Africa, to Tanzania. He was there to bring his Sandawe grammar. And from that we went to Alakwa, where Roland and I have both been doing research, and we went to Quadino. And in Quadino is a little village not far from the main road. It's yeah, it's quite pure Alakwa speaking, whereas the rest of the area is very mixed Alakwa Rangi. We went to the primary school, and I think it was a wonderful experience for us, but we had a strong impression, certainly also for the kids in the school. The headmaster was very, very much eager to receive us and to give us the opportunity to read Alakwa stories that we had collected with these kids. Headmaster doesn't know a word of Alakwa. The headmaster is Christian, all the kids are Muslim. The headmaster doesn't understand even the greetings, and that's the same for all the teachers in that primary school. There's a little bit of, when you start really thinking about that, these kids, they go to school and they come in an environment that is now completely Swahili, but also completely Christian and completely different from their home environment. And then we were trying to read Alakwa stories with them. Well, if I have time to show the video, they're all putting their hands up and they're very excited, very uncertain also about how to do it. And the headmaster was also, moved, I think, by this whole day. And I think that that these experiences might help to make school a little bit more of a welcoming environment for the children there. But I'm talking about the Rift Valley area, 10 years on, critical evaluation, the way forward. The title is by these gentlemen. Yeah? They gave me the title, said, okay, I have to talk, so what should I talk about? And I wondered a bit, why is this title given to me? And I see that also behind the project that certainly Andrew had was the idea of language contact. And they used this title. Again, I need my book. The book. A real book. Do you still know what a book is? The article is in this book, A Linguistic Geography of Africa, edited by Bernd Heine and Derek Nurse. Is the book so important that I have to show it to you? Yes, I think it is, because the article in it that you will see, it says Roland Kießling et al., and the all are Maarten, Mous and Derek Nurse. So Derek Nurse, Bantuist, he was one of the editors of this book, and he convinced us to join him to write this article. And the whole book is about the linguistic geography of Africa. So we did what we could. We looked at a lot of features. Now it's clear how unfamiliar I am with the Mac technology. These are all these features. I'm actually not going to go through them, just to show you that we did what you would often do when you look at an area as a linguistic area, to look at features and say, okay, where do we find them? How well represented are they? I think we did a very excellent job in this. The map I took from an article by Bonnie Sands, because I can use it very well. It combines two maps. You see area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is Tom Guldeman, who started with his idea of the Sprachbund is really a very prominent thing in the Sudanic Sprachbund, and that is an idea that has been very old in African linguistics, number 3. And then number 2 is the Ethiopian language area that was around in the literature, very much put in doubt by Mauro Tosco, one of the very renowned experts on Ethiopian languages, but okay. And then we have the north, must be a Sprachbund because Berber and Arabic. Yeah, that's a Bund. 5, of course, is there. Tom Guldeman has been one of his main things to show is that these languages known as Khoisan languages are not one linguistic family, but they have to be divided up in at least 3 and maybe separate also Sandawe. But then they look so similar because they have been influencing each other for decades. Number 6 is not there. That's our. So I don't know. He never told me why, but in his view, our proposal is just not valid. There is no Rift Valley, Tanzanian Rift Valley Sprachbund, because this is only put in with the lines. Those lines are the map that that is in the first phonological chapter in this book. That is by Nick Clements and Annie Rialan. But when they talk about language family, they had a task to see Africa from the phonological point of view as a language area, that they just divided it up. So they were really concerned with making a division that covered the whole of Africa. So, and then they were very happy that we had the Rift Valley, so there was that one too. They don't really discuss it, but they just include it in the map. So, I think Tom Gulderman is absolutely right, but maybe in a different way that he thinks that I agree with him. So, my point will be, it was very nice exercise to make this article on the Rift Valley as a linguistic area, but what is a linguistic area? So my way forward is actually to say, well, it is very dangerous to use this concept of linguistic area, because it might even stop you from looking deeper. And when we look, what is interesting is all the different language contact phenomena, and every one of them we have to study. And the danger of this idea of a linguistic area is to say, okay, the properties are similar, area. That is also what we more or less did, but no, we went a bit deeper than that. So, can I go further down? Oh yeah, maybe that quote. How much time do I have actually?
Like 10, 15 minutes.
Then I'm going to skip this quote by Campbell, and I'll go right to the challenges. The emergence of the infinitive aux order in Bukwe and Rangi, because there we did make a step forward in the sense that we are not so convinced anymore in what is actually happening. The infinitive before the auxiliary in a Bantu language is strange, because Bantu languages will put the infinitive after the auxiliary. That is also the way you normally do it in languages where the object would follow the verb. So it is strange to have infinitive aux order in Bantu languages. We have it in Bukwe and we have it in Rangi. So I wrote a small article on infinitive aux order in Bukwe, showing that it is there, showing that it's counter-universal, showing that it is new, and weakly suggesting that this is probably due to contact with either Gorwa, probably Gorwa, Southern Cushitic speaking people in the same area, where the verb is final in a sentence, where you do have the order of the infinitive before the auxiliary. Can we go a little bit down, Andrew? So these statements, Iraku and Gora, they inherited the verb auxiliary order. That is just common in Cushitic anyway. And Bukwe has innovated that in all likelihood. The relevant languages that we talk about are indeed in contact. They are not only neighboring, but there is bilingualism. So the first conclusion was this must be a contact phenomenon. Then there's the doubt, because the constructions that we have in Bukwe where the auxiliary follows the infinitive, that's part of the paradigms, that's part of the present progressive, for example. There are a number of tenses that use an auxiliary, and the auxiliary is after the infinitive, but the auxiliary is related to a verb to be. Do we have that kind of construction in Gorwa?
The infinitive
Plus to be.
plus to be, no.
No.
I would argue that
Thank you. We don't. I don't know for Gorwa. For Iraqwa, I'm sure we don't have that. So there is no, there's no model in the language where we expect that has influenced Mbukwe. There's no model for those specific constructions that they now use in Mbukwe with the auxiliary following the infinitive. Do they use then the Gorwa word for to be? No, they use the inherited word for to be. So certainly the material itself was not transferred. Maybe the construction was, but it's not. It can't be through calking. At least we can't show it because we don't find the real examples, models in the language that it would come from. So it would be maybe very general kind of thing of, okay, borrowing structure in an abstract way. I find that difficult to work with that concept of borrowing structure in an abstract way. So Hannah Gibson has worked on this after me, and she has worked mainly on Rangi, which also has this order, and then also a little bit on Bukwe and a little bit on Gusi and other languages, Bantu languages in East Africa, where they see also examples of this remarkable word order. And what she shows is that, okay, it is possible that this is an internal development, that we had a construction for focus in which we have a verb to be, then the infinitive, and then the to be again, to have the real emphasis on the verb, and from that we could imagine the development into a present progressive. So yes, that is possible, and so the more straightforward example that we thought we had of contact-induced language change in the order of infinitive and auxiliary is at least not convincingly just only due to contact. And I put it this way because I think what we have learned in the study of language contact has been very popular in the last decades is that I think we have to get away from the idea that we'll come up with the laws of language contact. It will be different in language contact studies than it is in certain other parts of linguistics where you want to predict certain thing and you want to say, okay, this is, we find counter evidence, so we are done. I think it's much more like in court that you present all sorts of evidence and you provide evidence. Some of the evidence is of the kind like, I've seen this before. Doesn't need to mean that it has to happen, but it might, it's possible. So multiple explanations, multiple causes then are not a strange thing to propose. So I think it is very likely that the fact that speakers are familiar, are happy with an order of some verbal element after the nominalized verb will happen, will certainly encourage also internal developments that are go towards that direction. I think we can go on and we'll just skip all of this. And we do tuku. It's another small thing. So, where is it? Here, it's the negation in Bukwe. And you can even say tuku or tok. Yeah, this is tuku with no. You can start a sentence with that. And we have that word meaning something like completely in Alakwa. So Alakwa is a Cushitic language. It's spoken close to Mbukwe. It's adjacent. This is another clear case of language contact. And it must have gone from Cushitic to Bantu because, yeah, we don't know that many Bantu languages that you will use the tuku for negation. It's an additional negation element. They have the normal negation on the verb, but in addition they will use tuku. Clear. And on top of that, Hannah and Vera also, Hannah Gibson, Vera Willemsen, they found that they have tuk-tuk for completely in Yaku, Cushitic language in Kenya. So, yeah, that must be Cushitic and Cushitic to Bantu. But Yaku, I think, well, Yaku, that's all Maasai anyway. These people speak Maasai 99% of the time, and when they even speak Yaku, they speak Maasai with a few words that they remember from a long time ago. So, what do we have in Maasai? Well, we have Tukul, completely in Maasai. So, is Maasai maybe a possible source for this thing? I don't know the final answer, but an objection could be, well, at least we know that Mbukwe and Alakwa are in contact with each other. We don't have that much indications of Maasai influence on Mbukwe, very little. But luckily enough, and something to think about, what was it, 1910 something, 1911, Dempwolf wrote an article on Mbukwe, so quite some time ago, and it's not a lot that he devotes to it, but he shows that the Mbukwe nouns, they can easily be preceded by the le definite article from ole, from Maasai. So it was very common at that time that you would use a Maasai definite article in every sentence that you would say, and that has completely disappeared since then. So it's a bit of a of a warning for us. Language contact can disappear. So very often it's not even there where we expect it to be there where the languages are in contact. Nothing really happens, but also when it happens, it can also disappear again. So it would be interesting, though, to know what happened there in the end. Maybe you can go down a little bit. I think all of this was mainly for me to remind me what I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Questions that are those that are remain. How different transfer events did we have? So if we would be able to solve this scenario of how it really happened with Tuku in Alakwa, in Burunge too, and then in Rangi and in Bukwe. But then we have to know, did Alakwa and Burungi borrow it at the same time? It's not so likely because they are not in one subgroup. So it's not impossible, but we have to have a more complex kind of scenario for that. Did Mbukwe and Rangi receive that element at the same time? We would really want to know, because then that helps us to see the whole chronology of the language contact and of the influence. And that is something that we can find out, I think. I hope that we can find out in the near future, the linguistic history of those two languages of Rangi and Bukwe. But it is in this kind of detail that we will get better insight in what all the contact phenomena were and all the language contact moments were, and with that also the differences in power between the groups. And there are two scenarios possible for Rangi and Bukwe are clearly closely related, two clearly closely related Bantu languages. One scenario says that the Mbukwe are people who went north to collect some salt and just remained behind. The other scenario is the popular one that everybody comes from the north, so the Mbukwe stayed behind and the Rangi went further. We would like to know which of these two is the most likely one, and we would also like to have a kind of a reconstruction of the small scale of these two languages to see which kind of phenomena that they share are parallel innovations or really shared as one type of transfer, and from where. Can we go on the Sule mystery? I want to stop in time, so maybe I will simply stop here. Yeah, what is Sule? It's just the last point that in a number of examples that I wanted to point out, where we hopefully we can find more information on the language contact, but it's only interesting if we go into the detail, and it's not so interesting if we just make superficial comparisons, like say they're similar, something must have happened. No, we want to know what has happened. The Sule are one of those clans in the Iraku. For the Iraku, we know that most of the clans are not original Iraku. And that's this very nice situation where they all claim, they all know where they were from, they will give you the whole list of father, and they will say our founding father was Yaturu or was Alakwa. But then there's quite a number of clans that will say, well, we are Sule, and it's not so clear where they're from. And it's clear that they it is likely that they were once a separate ethnic unit, and it's clear that they no longer are. But it gives us an idea that, yeah, there must have been an ethnic unit there with their language. What was their language? One option is it was Southern Nilotic, maybe not Datoga, because they were absorbed by the Datoga later as a different group. Or maybe different language at all. And so in order to look into that, I was just trying to look at the Bantu words in Iraku Gorwa, but the two have them in common that are not Swahili. What kind of words do we find there? Do we see that is maybe, can that be recognized as a substrate? And those are the kind of questions that I want to address in the project of Lucy's Lost Lexicon. That has a different official name, but I will present that in the afternoon, what we're going to do in that project. I'll stop here.
All right, thank you very much, Maarten. We have time for a few questions. If anyone has a question or a comment for Maarten. Yes. Oh,
That's a question I have. Please. No, please.
I thought I would leave it to the
Sorry,
chair,
okay.
but now we're in trouble.
Well, Maarten, would you like to go?
Yeah, it's this so thinking about this verb auxiliary thing, I think it's also about contact linguistics, always thinking about the formal contact. So you want to know phonemes that have been taken over, or you want to know morphemes that have been calqued, or structures that have been calqued. So you're always thinking in this structural way. What it seems to be what you're showing is basically rather the pragmatic thing, that something which was a focus construction has become the neutral construction. Something very similar is, I think, found in Central Asian Arabic, which became SOV, but clearly became SOV by, well, no more thinking that if it's before the verb that it's a topic. So just everything came before the verb, and you can see in the structures that it is the old topic construction that became the neutral construction. So I think there's also this element of pragmatics which may be much more important when being bilingual than thinking, come on, let's have an auxiliary construction because the other language you speak also has auxiliary construction. I think it's much more using this construction that's already there, but giving them a slightly different meaning.
Yeah, in addition to there's also a pragmatical thing that's not pragmatics but very practical, is that down to earth, is that the infinitive marker is O, and O is also one of the elements for the class 1 subject marker, the most common subject marker on the verb, and that I think simply also played a role in the easiness to reinterpret that whole construction. So I think it's pragmatics and also details that we sometimes forget to mention that play a role in what happens in the change of this construction. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions?
There were two.
I'm still going to ask my question.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that you sort of skipped over the Lyle quote.
Okay.
I wanted
Can
to
you go
know
back to
your
the line?
views on
Yeah. That is right.
because that relates to actually probably the difference between you and Tom in a way.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. How far up is it?
We are still further on. Yeah. A bit down. This is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the basic idea, and you were saying, well, is it a linguistic area? But there is development now in area linguistics that you don't necessarily have to be talking about linguistic areas, because defining linguistic area is a complex issue.
Yeah.
And you might be more interested in the spread of.
Yeah. I mean, that is. I'm not in any different position than Campbell. I think Campbell writes it this way because it's in the handbook of aerial linguistics. That is also why I say we have to understand that our articles in the linguistic geography of Africa. We have to look at these things to interpret what we see. I think Campbell is very critical of the concept of linguistic area as something that can explain phenomena in language context. And that is reflected in his conclusion. The individual historical events of diffusions that count. So I very much agree with that. Not the post hoc attempts to impose geographical order on various conglomerates of these borrowings. But he will also say that the concept of linguistic area is simply that you're looking at phenomena in an area, and not more than that. And I certainly would love to do that because it's very practical, because we have, what is it called, the Tanzanian Rift Valley, and we see that as an area. So yes, it is very practical for us to use that idea and say, okay, look at that area. The area exists geographically. It's called in German Abflussloses Gebiet, so it is clearly, you can define it as a geographical area. It's a lot of things going on there, as Andrew put forward. We have to stress all the language families of Africa are in that area, so that helps to see language contact, because the material is at some point very, very different. You get very different modes of living. So you have the farmers, you have the cattle people who are semi-nomadic. You have the hunter-gatherers. You have the robo. So you have all the different traditional ways of living are in that area, and so in that sense it's too diverse to call it one really coherent area, but at the same time it helps you to see what is going on in terms of the individual historic events. And in that sense, it is very useful to say, okay, let's look at this area, but let us not see the Sprachbund as a concept that can help us to understand what goes on in language change.
This is where the problem comes. You started from linguistic area and then you go to Sprachbund. Sprachbund has a particular understanding. And
It's just how you want to put your definitions.
Yeah, and that's very important.
Well, there is no, to me, there is no definition of whatever way you call it that is a concept that gives explanation for linguistic change to contact. That's as strong as I can put it.
To be continued.
That's as strong as I can put it.
So sort of in connection to the discussion, I was thinking like because area feature can be a very useful concept, right? So certain features are prominent only in certain areas.
I think it can only be useful as a beginning of observation.
Yeah.
I think,
So,
I
because
think
when
area feature you could say it's just saying, well, we have this and we don't know why it is like that.
yeah. So but
So,
then
and then it's no explanation at all. It's
you
just
can
description
see
of
how it extends, how far it extends,
just
and
description of
that probably can be helpful to look into context because in the sense of why it's expressed in certain directions, a lot of times because of historical context. That's why it's expressed in certain way. But to pre-describe, I sort of see your point. To pre-describe this is the area, and then you have a linguistic area that can be very harmful. Like what
No,
you
I
said.
think the same about the area features. I think area features are nothing than a first observation. Like if you hear a gun, you don't know which phoneme that is, but you start with hearing that. If you see an aerial feature, and if you want to understand why it is an area feature, you will have to do the historical research and see how languages influence each other, and there's no way around it. I mean, it doesn't, the danger is, to me exactly the danger is to say, okay, this is an aerial feature, so that is explained through contact, because that is what is happening a lot. And I think you haven't done your historical research to show that that's actually a contact event that happens, language change through contact.
Yeah.
So that is my problem, yeah.
Yeah, so I would think of it's the starting point. You observe
Yeah.
certain features, and then you try
Yeah.
to see if there's convergent evidence from other, even other disciplines. For
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
history and
Sure.
migration and all sorts of lines of research that could actually lend evidence to the idea of contacts, right? And linguistic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's thank Maarten again for his presentation.